Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here with my review of Power Rangers Dino Supercharge Edge of Extinction. Yes, that's right, because next week's End of Extinction, so it's like kind of confusing. But anyway, this is our penultimate episode, and last week I kept thinking that for whatever reason, like last week was the penultimate episode, this week was a finale, and then I got like extra sad because now we only have one more left, but then we have the Christmas special. But anyway, so this episode overall, I guess to start off to say, was okay. It wasn't really bad per se in general. It was just kind of okay for me. I think that it came down to just a lot of smaller issues in general with the way things were set up for it. But it mainly featured the Rangers splitting up across the world in the various megazords, taking out the giant green monsters that Sledge had planned on hatching after they had brought one back to the lab and then blasted it and realized what his plan was. So it was kind of about that. And honestly, other than that, there actually wasn't too much else going on. That was pretty much the it of it. There was like two other main things that happened, one of which was Heckyl basically, after warning the Rangers, deciding to go essentially pull out his hoodie strings, because that was weird, I don't know, but only one of them though apparently, because it's like, I don't even know what's happening. Why am I talking about my hoodie string? It's more interesting to me. But anyway, it was about Heckyl sort of trying to do his bucket list, his last day on Earth stuff, because he essentially knows what's going to happen because it happened to him, and then ultimately realizing that he couldn't stand by and do it because he was a good person all along, because he helped a parent and child that were less than 2 feet away reunite. Seriously, could they have not made them closer together? Like the mom was here and the kid was here, and he's like, "Is this your daughter?" He could have just been like, "Hey, you two, stop being idiots." Like, I don't know, it seemed weird. But, yeah, so there was that, and the other stupid thing that was going on was Sledge and Poisandra's wedding. Now, given how much that was talked about ad nauseum by Poisandra specifically, I kind of always assumed we would get some sort of resolution to that. So, I'm not mad they addressed that, it's just like the timing and presentation of it. They definitely went full unfunny camp for it, which isn't even, like I said, I'd rather them make it a little bit pulled back and try to make it funnier in other respects, but the main thing about it is the timing. Everything about this last batch of episodes could honestly make my opinion of it, and I think just the flow of it in general, better with some rearranging of the pacing. I think that maybe they should have, like, as soon as Sledge was brought back, do this nonsense, because I was thinking about it, and like, since this is the penultimate episode, you know, we kind of had stakes going on, and I wasn't really feeling it. Now, I've had that feeling before, for example, with the Ninja and Ghost's finale arcs, where it was weird because I didn't feel like invested. Like, even with other shows that I haven't liked quite as much, near the finale you always get this extra level of investment, if it makes any sense, because the stakes feel higher, everything's more urgent, you're kind of curious to see what happens next. And with series like Ghost and the Ninja, near the end, I didn't really feel that invested. But like, the Ninja's a good example because I could tell that the elements were there, where I sort of felt the stakes in certain respects. But I didn't really care about them because I just didn't care about the show. But with this one, I felt sort of that, but more. Like, I didn't feel invested, which is probably just because I don't think it was built up well and I don't care for the show, but there was like this extra layer of not even feeling the stakes, and I was trying to put my finger on it, and I think I realized, like, reflecting on last week's episode and last week's review as well, that I think it's because the villains are, like, messing around while all this is happening. Like, Sledge had this whole plan of releasing these giant green monsters, and then while it's happening, the villains are doing, like, unfunny comedy, and, like, there's always humor in PR, but it's like I said, they should have gotten this out of the way so that while this plan that Sledge is acting out is happening, he's not even paying attention. Like, the most active he was in this episode was deciding to do away with Snide and then, like, not helping him at the end when he got destroyed. Like, that was it. It just seemed weird to have, like, the part one of the giant finale fight plan of the main villain be happening and him off in a top hat doing some toku nonsense. So I think that's what it is that when the villains aren't even paying attention, like, it's kind of funny, like, it seems like they've, in this last arc, they've switched off with either the Rangers were being stupid and the villains were doing something, or the villains were being stupid and the Rangers were doing something, and it feels like I can't remember when they were both invested in what was happening fully, and like one of them wasn't off being stupid. So I think that's what it is, where I can't even feel the stakes. And even the fight, I liked the idea of a global distribution. It kind of gave it a little bit of a scale. But like the fight itself, didn't feel that dire. Like, you know the Rangers are gonna win. I don't think there'll ever be a Toku where the villains win, which, I don't know, anyway, but, I just didn't feel it. Like, they didn't even have that moment of, oh man, are the Rangers gonna lose? It was just like, oh man, can we do it? I don't think we can do it. We might, oh no, it's okay, we're good. Like, it was like a millisecond of doubt of, like, them not being able to do it. It just, I didn't feel the stakes that way either. It just kind of felt weird like that. But anyway, my other main problem with this episode, which is more so a problem with the handling of Kendall throughout the series, is that at the beginning-ish of the episode, all the Rangers morph and they're like, alright, let's do this. And they all get in the Megazords and go. Except for Kendall, who morphs so she can put her helmet down and get on the computer. And it's like, come on, we have 2 episodes left. Can you not let Kendall out of the command center? Now, there's various, I've mentioned this on Twitter, and various people have been like, well, Claire said that, you know, her job is to keep the Rangers safe or whatever, but it's like, I always think back to Cam, who did both, and it's like, not only did he do Cybercam, but before that, before Cybercam was even a thing, he was like setting up a way that he could be a Ranger and fulfill his job back at Ninja Ops, and it's like, it's just, the thing about it is that I could, when the series started, I could see Kendall being one of my favorites. I really like the actress. I think she does a good job. I think there was great setup. But between the fact that we've never learned anything about her, besides the fact that she has a grandmother, which we know that about everybody, because everybody has a grandmother, she hasn't gotten that, and she's very rarely out in the field, which is weird because her Sentai counterpart, like, I'm not trying to say they should do it the same, but it's just funny because her Sentai counterpart was a reoccurring character. She wasn't a main cast member. Since before Kendall's been a Ranger, she's a main cast member. But Yayoi, who wasn't introduced until later in the series, and who was reoccurring, felt more like the unofficial 7th Ranger. Like, she felt she was there a decent amount from the moment she was introduced through the end. And so it's like they have the footage, and like because of that, I assumed Kendall would have even more presence once she became a Ranger, and it was even less. And to have that in the finale, and she like never gets to use her own Megazord. I think maybe it happened once, maybe twice, and it's just, why couldn't they have just let her? And then, you know, some people were saying, well, then she wouldn't have been there to fight Snide in the base at the end. They still could have done that. They could have been like, she could have been the first to arrive back home. Keeper could have been like, oh man, I'm in danger because I'm Keeper, and then she could have been the first on the scene. That still could have been accomplished, and allowing her to have a finale moment here by getting to pilot her own Megazord. And honestly, the fight wasn't worth it. It was an original fight. It was 2 lame flips. It was nothing, really. I would have much rather had Kendall actually be able to get out in the field and fight on the front lines for once, instead of a really poorly done fight scene. So yeah, that just bothers me because I feel she should have gotten so much more out of that. And even the setup in general for the way they do the Zords, like, everyone's always using each other's Zords, and it's really weird. Like, Tyler was piloting the almost said Spino Force, the Spino Charge Megazord, and then you had, I think it was Deadbeat Dad, whose name I'm forgetting at the moment, and Phil piloting Plesio. It should have been the opposite. Even ignoring, like, let's say we have to keep Kendall in the base because whatever. It would have been less awkward for me if Tyler piloted Plesio because he's done that before, and have Aqua and Graphite actually pilot the Megazord that has their Zords. It's just, and what baffles me about all that in general, whether it's Kendall or any of the other weird Zord piloting placement, is that they're making all the Zord footage this year, just like they've actually done since for Samurai. Well, no, I guess they didn't do it last year, but anyway. So it's not like they're adhering to Sentai, or they have to adhere to who's in it, and they seem to adhere to it and not at random, and it's just, I don't know, it just comes off as really strange. Like, that was like a really side note, because I would have preferred Kendall to be out there, but it seemed weird. I'm like, well, why aren't Aqua and Graphite with their own Zords? It's just, I don't know. But that's just weird, and I feel like that was more of a problem that definitely came from this episode, but just sort of sprawled out through the rest of the series, is that Kendall should have gotten more. She could have been so much more, honestly. And the stuff with Heckyl too, again, I'm going to reiterate that I do like Heckyl, and I think that there's a wasted potential for him, again, to probably would have been one of my favorite characters, for a really cool arc for him becoming Talon. Again, he could have been the 2nd ever main villain to have become a Ranger. And it just seems like they're all leading towards that, and then nothing. And another problem with it is that I feel that some of the buildup of him being actually a good person could have very easily been foreshadowed earlier on. Especially, I've mentioned this in a previous video, but with him working with the Rangers, which was given away way too quickly and very anticlimactically in a really lame filler episode. And if he would have stayed just a little bit longer and actually sort of bonded with the Rangers, I think I've mentioned before, like, even if it was more superficial on the Rangers side, like, I think they have all the pieces there. That's what frustrates me so much. It's not as if it was just suddenly squandered. It's like you can trace it back and been like, man, they had it here. They could have done this and this and this, and then this would have been amazing. But they just squandered it all, so fast. So that could have been a really cool moment, like much more meaningful of Heckyl helping and deciding to come over if they had utilized his identity being hidden earlier on when he had a closer rapport with the Rangers. So yeah, but overall that was kind of more so monologuing about issues that come from this episode that stem throughout the series, but the episode itself was very okay. There was just kind of some decent action, some decent premises. It's just all of it didn't hit. There was some stuff that could have been better, but overall just kind of a fair episode, probably around a 6, I would say. But next week is the finale. 2 more of these reviews for this series. We got the finale and then probably the Christmas episode, so next week should be interesting because I know stuff that happens and I'm looking forward to, I guess, talking about it. And by talking, I mean probably ranting. We'll see how it comes. That sounded, nope. But I'm curious to see how it plays out because I've definitely formulated somewhat of a preliminary opinion on the story choices that they're making next week. But I'm curious to see how it plays out, which is kind of funny because I was kind of curious in general about how this whole second half is going to play out based on having read the spoilers and then seeing it. And honestly, there was not much difference in reading about it and seeing it and how I felt about it, but we'll see with the finale. But anyway, that's about it. Until next time, make sure you have the Crazy Podcast at writersrangersrambles.com, and of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, Dawson Ryder, signing out.